What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the E-commerce Influence Podcast. I'm fired up to be here with you guys today. I just got back from 6 days completely off the grid. Went on a backpacking trip in Texas to a mountain range in Texas. Imagine that. There's actually some pretty large mountains in Texas, Guadalupe National Forest, and I feel refreshed. It was the first time in quite some time that I'd taken like a full 6 days cell phone off, and it felt fantastic. Drove out from Austin to Guadalupe National Park. Took about 7.5 hours. We got there, put down our tents, had a group of about 10 friends, and we knew it was going to be cold, but I didn't know what that exactly meant. I brought about all my clothes, all my warm stuff. And the first day we threw our packs on, started hiking, started snowing just about immediately, went up a couple thousand feet to almost 9,000 feet. On the way up, the snow was coming down. It was getting colder and colder and colder. Went from about 30 degrees to about 15 degrees by the time we got to the top of the mountain, put down our tent. And oh man, that was if you ever want to experience to get grateful for your warm bed, this was it. It was an incredible time. We after that night, I think I slept about maybe 15, 20 minutes. It was so cold. But over the week of backpacking, really got some time to kind of check in, get some altitude from my life and business. Spent a whole day by myself out in the desert. Actually, it was like kind of deserty woods area, just journaling, and I highly recommend it. And one of the things that came up during this trip was sharing a little bit more about my personal business philosophy and our business philosophy at Brand Growth Experts. That came up because that has allowed me to do some of these incredible excursions and have more flexibility and freedom while at the same time growing a business. So I want to talk about that today. But before I go into that, I'll share one funny story, which was, we were out there for about 5 days. On the way back, the last day we had 12.5 miles. We were hiking. Each person was wearing about a 40-pound backpack. It was cold. It was windy. We summited a mountain up about 6 miles, which was exhausting. And then we went another 6 miles down, which was almost equally as exhausting. By the time we got to the end of the trip, we smelled terrible. We were so hungry. And we were in this small little town called Carlsbad, New Mexico. Just a little like oil and gas town with one Mexican restaurant. We showed up there. We ordered food for about 30 people. This poor woman, this waitress, kept bringing out more and more food. It would get the 10 of us destroyed it. Ate enough food for about 30 people in a half an hour, and it was the most satisfying meal that I've had in quite some time. Hilarious trip, super fun, and that kind of helps transition. What I want to talk about today, as I mentioned, I'm going to be sharing kind of our formula for growing your business from $500,000 a year to $5 million a year without sacrificing your health, your personal life, or your family. Now, I want to talk about this. I said it came up during my trip because I believe that society has brainwashed entrepreneurs to believe that they must sacrifice their life for their business to succeed. I believe this is false. And I think this is a false narrative pushed by people who are playing status games. And what I mean by status games are games designed to garner attention, not wealth games designed to build wealth. And by people who have a very narrow view of what success is. Why do I know this is false? Because I used to believe it. I used to believe this narrative that you need to sacrifice everything, crush everything just to have success in your business. And it was very detrimental to me. I burned out. I became unhealthy. I broke out in hives all over my body from stress. And I would take on too many projects that were too large with too little help and think that I was going to be able to get them done. And it really led to my business not growing as fast as it could. It led to me being tired and exhausted and not really wanting to focus on my business. And it really held me back. Now, right now, the reason I know this is false is because the people I surround myself with have successful businesses. They have rich family lives, deep friendships, and are in really, really, really good physical health. And they haven't gotten that way by completely sacrificing everything in the pursuit of growth of their business. And I see this with my clients all the time. Come in with a mindset of needing to crush everything, hit a point, a ceiling where they burn out, then have to reset and hit a new paradigm to be able to get to the next level. So today I'm going to be sharing with you what I call our brand acceleration formula. It is a 5-step process you can use to help you grow your business without going crazy, without giving up your personal life, without sacrificing your health. And at the end of today's episode, after I walk through it, I'm going to be announcing an exciting case study program I'll be launching to potentially help your business for 20 listeners. So let's dive into it. And I want to start with a quote that I really, really, really like. It's a quote from Naval Ravikant. He says, "Seek wealth, not money or status. Wealth is having assets that earn while you sleep. Money is how we transfer time and wealth. Status is your place in the social hierarchy." So earlier what I said was that I believe there's a narrative being pushed that you need to sacrifice everything to grow your business. I believe the people who are pushing that are people who are playing status games, not wealth games. Status games are these games designed to move you up in the social hierarchy. And people who tell you you need to crush everything, sacrifice, those people get something from that, from putting that message out there. It's somewhat of the Gary V's of the world, right? And actually, if you listen to Gary V in short form versus long form, it's very different. Short form, it's kind of catchy. It's, wake up, grind, crush. Long form, I think he actually has some interesting points, and it's really opposite of what he says in short form to capture attention. But there's people that are playing this status game, often journalists that are writing articles talking about how Elon Musk sleeps like 1 hour a night, or, all these crazy things. That's designed to capture your attention. Ultimately, the game isn't about garnering status, at least not for me. I want to build wealth. I want to build assets that grow while I sleep. I want to help my clients, help my employees, people around me build wealth and turn money into wealth. Because making money is a skill and it's important, but making money also can go away really fast. And the idea is when you build wealth, if you want to have everything in your life, if you want to have great relationships, you want to have peak health, you want to have a rich family life, it comes down to having wealth, not making money and not having status. In fact, those other things, I've seen them lead to the destruction of relationships and the destruction of health and personal life because they are never ending, right? And we'll talk a little bit about infinite games versus finite games. But anyway, I'm going to go into this and dive into what I call our brand acceleration formula. And this is something I've thought about a lot. This has come from working with clients over years. It's come from my own business. And this is a repeatable formula. And you can use this to create the best 90 days that you've ever had in your business. And also, again, focus on doing that without sacrificing your health, your relationships, or your family life. So step number 1 in the brand acceleration formula is get grounded in reality. That means you need to ask, how is your business and life really doing? Right? Ask yourself the question, where am I in my life right now? Personally, professionally, with my relationships? And really think about this. It's very easy to be kind of disconnected from the reality of your situation, especially if you're working very, very hard and you're wrapped up in what you're doing. And it's very easy to go in a direction slightly away from where you want to be over time and end up quite far away from where you desire to be in the first place. So I always start with this, right? If you're going to be starting and if you're feeling like you're scrambling and you're feeling like, okay, this isn't exactly what I wanted and I know we can be doing better, start here. Ask yourself where you are in your life right now. Spend some time journaling and go through your personal, professional, and relationships and get really, really clear. Ask yourself, where are you out of integrity right now? And if you're feeling that you're feeling like feelings that you're like struggling or this is harder than it should be, it's probably because you're out of integrity in some part of your life. The other question to ask yourself is, what have you left incomplete in your life? If there are things that are out of integrity and incomplete, that can lead to you feeling a struggle or a challenge in your life that doesn't necessarily have to be there. With this, you need to get help with these blind spots. You need others to help you see what you can't see. That's why it's incredibly valuable to have peers, other business owners to talk to, people who you can really, really trust, who are doing the same thing as you, who can look at your business and say, hey, this is what I think you are leaving on the table, or this is where I think, your business is kind of lacking, maybe an audit or something like that. That is very, very helpful. So that is step number 1, get grounded in reality. And we do this every 90 days, is get really, really clear on where you are. And this is one of the things I was doing on this trip, was asking myself this question, how am I really doing? You can take an entire day going through this, or you can just go and spend some time by yourself writing and getting clear. But very, very important. Step number 2, create a crystal clear vision. Now, I believe the biggest reason for slow growth is not because of lack of resources, lack of desire, lack of drive. The biggest reason is lack of clarity. Now, if you have clarity, everything starts moving in the right direction, regardless if you are even trying. Everything starts to come together. We have an exercise that we do every 90 days. It says we sit down and we go, all right, imagine it's 1 year from now and you're doing incredibly well. What exactly does that look like? Who is on your team? What is the customer experience look like? What are the things that you would need to do between now and then to get there? This is a great exercise to get crystal clear about what you're doing. And there's 2 levels to this, right? The 1 year, and then there's the 5 year, and there's a 10 year, and the 90 day. But I'm going to talk about the 1 year right now, because I think 1 year is tangible for a lot of people. You can sit down and write for 50 minutes and have a lot of progress in this. When I go through this exercise, what happens is it forces me to get clear about what I actually want, right? It's not what other people think. It's imagine 1 year from now and you are doing incredibly well. And I have my whole team do this as well. So they can describe what them what doing really well would look like for them. Now, often when you go through this, you're going to find that first, I highly encourage you to really let yourself be authentic, right? What do you actually want a year from now? What you'll typically find is that you don't have the people on your team currently to help you do this. And you're typically going to come up with a list of things that you realize you understand you need to do to be able to get there. So that's number 2, create a crystal clear vision. And I highly, highly recommend this in this order. Number 3, find your focus. So the biggest mistake I see entrepreneurs make is trying to do too much, especially at the level from, $500,000 a year in sales to $5 million a year in sales. You get excited. I'm guilty of this. Every entrepreneur I believe is guilty of this. You get excited and you want to do a lot of different things. Maybe you hear a podcast. Maybe you hear this podcast. You go to a conference. You get an email about what somebody's doing and you want to implement some new project. And what can happen is without your crystal clear vision of where you're going, and we have a process to take that 1 year and move it down to 90 days, which is really, really important. Without that crystal clear vision, it's very, very easy to get constantly bombarded by new ideas that don't fit into your plan. And so when they don't fit into your plan, but you're bombarded with them, all it is distraction. And so there's a couple ways you can avoid this, right? First, it's coming up with a very clear 90-day plan of what you're going to accomplish, down to starting with a top overall metric that's the most important metric to you, and then picking 3 to 5 things that you want to accomplish during that next 90 days. Then this is pulled from like the traction system. If you use traction, you'll be kind of familiar with this. And we have our own version, and we take the traction system and change it a little bit because there are things I like about it, but things that I don't like about it as well. So get down to 3 to 5 things. Create a company dashboard that allows you to make sure that you are remaining focused week in and week out on your overall goal for the 90 days. Now, here's the most important thing. Once you set that, it's very important to document the new ideas, but not dive into them. So if you have a new idea and you're like, wow, this is incredible, I heard this podcast about this thing, just document it, record it, and then come back to it at the end of the 90 days, because you will drive yourself crazy. I've driven myself crazy for years. When I was first starting out in business, I've seen my clients drive themselves crazy trying to implement all these new things over and over and over again. So the company dashboard, again, 5 to maybe 15 metrics you look at on a weekly basis. 15 would be the absolute max that you are tracking week in and week out to see if you are remain focused on your number one thing for the 90 days. Number 4, once you found your focus, you got to get expert help. So I highly, highly recommend that once you've decided what your most important goal is, that you don't waste time and you go out there and you start asking the people who are best at what you want to do, how they're accomplishing what you're doing. I'll give you an example. We want to grow our podcast. This is one of the biggest goals that we have for this year. So right after we decided that goal at the beginning of the year, I went out and signed up for multiple audits from people who are excellent at growing podcasts. And I've got meetings to talk to them about how they would do it and how they would approach it. And I set up meetings with a couple of friends who have podcasts that are larger than mine to ask them what they would do if they were in my position to grow my podcast. I didn't waste any time. And I'm willing to invest in my business and invest in experts to help me get there. This is the difference between people who are going to take their business to the next level and ones who are not. I've seen this over and over again. My most successful clients are the ones who they implement and they go find the best people at what they need, what they want to do, and they make that happen. That is a huge, huge difference. I'd recommend if you're trying to do something right now and you have not reached out and talked to somebody who's much better at it than you, eat a piece of humble pie and go do it. Now, I will tell you, that is one of the hardest things for me to do. For a long time, I struggled, and I continue to struggle somewhat with asking for help, because I feel very self-sufficient, and it's very much connected with self-sufficiency, right? Like there are many things that I can do, and I feel comfortable being self-sufficient. Asking for help is challenging for me, but it is so, so, so important. Number 5, once you've done this, you got to build in systems to lock in the growth. Now, of all these 5 things, this one I feel like trips up entrepreneurs who are really good at implementing the most, because they want to go through all 4 steps again before building the systems to lock in the growth. Now, you may have actually be in a position where you've gone through this and you've been really successful building something, and you're still trapped in it. Right? That could be, maybe you've gotten really successful at Facebook ads by following this process. You realized we need to be successful at Facebook. You talked to an expert, you learned how to do it, but now you're still locked in that. It's very important that if you want to grow, you get yourself out of whatever you got yourself into, and you help somebody else take over that job. And you help somebody else be more successful than you could possibly be in that job. This could be simple, right? This could be simple of standardizing what you're doing with your emails week in, week out. This could be more complicated, like going in and training somebody who is a talented marketer to come in and do your Facebook ads. There are many different things that this means, but most importantly, it's having the awareness to identify where you are as a bottleneck after you've gone through this process, finding help to move through it, so then you can restart the process and grow again. And if you struggle with standard operating procedures, well, this is where you got to go and get some expert help. So take one step back, get expert help to be able to figure out why this is holding you back and systematize your business so that you can move forward and grow. So to summarize, right, the 5 steps: get grounded in reality. Number 1, 2, create your crystal clear vision. Number 3, find your focus. Number 4, get expert help. Invest in experts. It's very, very helpful. And number 5 is build systems to lock in growth. So I told you at the end, I talked a little bit about what we've got going on. Starting in a few weeks, we'll be offering a new program to our community called Intentional Wealth. It's going to be a case study program. And my vision for Intentional Wealth is to help a small group of 20 business owners have the best 90 days of their business life without sacrificing their health, personal life, or family. The program is going to combine many things that have had the greatest impact on my life and business, including many things that I've never shared before publicly. If you're an e-commerce business owner and you're doing over $45K a month and are interested in joining, head to brandgrowthexperts.com/wealth, and there's a short application. You can learn more about it. I'd love to have you join me. Again, it's going to be a case study program. We have never offered this program before, and it will be competitive. I know we're going to find 20 members that will be high contributors. So I'm excited. Hopefully, if you resonate with this episode, you'll apply and join me for this program. So if you love this episode, I would love for you to subscribe to the Ecommerce Influence podcast or write a review. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you guys on the next episode.